Hello, I'm host Eric. I'm host Talking with People here with host Eric's big critic Barry, and he's going to start our conversation about INTP uh, decision making, action taking processes. What were you saying before I stopped you and said, "Hold on, let's record this"? In other words,
Uh, you were talking about host Zachary's that he didn't want to be unprepared basically, and so he wanted to nail down. You phrased it every possibility and things like that. And I was saying I think it's more that you want to, like you said, fully understand the system. You want to fully process everything that might come at you because in a setting where your decisions have to be quick or where you're trying to get across a point or something. You don't want to have to go back and be like, oh well, this the thing that I'm building this off of. The logical sequence, what I'm saying sequentially has to make sense because I want the person to agree with me, or I want my decisions so that I know that they're right. But it,
what do
but
you
you
think?
don't want to doubt because your point is based on a sequential logical order based on the thing that you understand. So if you don't fully understand it, then you can't do that, and that's how we make our arguments, I think.
Well, I think what you guys understand well that it takes ENTPs a little longer to learn, and that sometimes maybe longer still, is that certain paths there's an need for architecture quality to things. Certain things need a certain kind of architecture, and certain things don't. So if you walk down a path that's the wrong kind of path, you might get fairly deep into something before you realize there are fundamental structural problems, architectural problems with what I'm doing that require me to
Mm-hmm.
scrap everything I've done so far and start over because I didn't spend enough time in the pre work stage making sure the architecture of my model accounted for all the significant variables.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and so and so on that level, I understand, respect, and acknowledge the correctness of the INTP instinct uh, to vet shit, to heavily vet shit before proceeding down the path. It's where we come into conflict ultimately. INTPs and ENTPs when we come into conflict. Most of the time we don't come into conflict because most of the time we have a very casual and collegial relationship with each other, right? Like INTPs and ENTPs like talking about the same kind of stuff. We respect each other's ideas. I respect the strength of your TI. You respect the flexibility of my NE. It works well. We're pal types, you know. So I don't usually have a lot of big commitments built around INTPs because I tend to just be pals with them. I have INTPs in my life, you know. Uh, if you do have some sort of shared work project, though, like I did with Kimball, that ended up being a problem because at the end of the day, she didn't want to take risks that weren't. I couldn't explain adequately why we should do that, or that
Mm-hmm.
it didn't win the impact battle. And at a certain point, basically, I didn't want to. I didn't want to do the rhetorical work that was required to explain it all. I do even in retrospect now feel I was right. Basically, the funny thing is we were arguing about is I wanted to invest money that we hadn't made yet, but we wouldn't really have had to go into debt. We just would have had to debt to ourselves, you know. But I wanted to invest money into a web architecture that accounted for all that TI shit ahead of time, right? And she wanted to take what is always, almost always, the right approach, which is you build it a little bit at a time, right? So you go, okay, well, let's get down one revenue stream, a very simple product line, a very simple business model, and then we'll add a revenue stream, or add a component that enables admin to be more effective, to make it more efficient. That is a very logical approach to building a business architecture because it makes it modular and it keeps the things distinct from each other, and it allows them to naturally occur when the moment and the business is ripe for the next stage, right? It's a perfectly reasonable conclusion to draw. I didn't agree with it though. I said, well, no, we need the web architecture because these revenue streams you're talking about putting in place, when we go to put them in place, we'll need to have this architecture the way I want it, or else I'm going to be just, basically I just said, because I want things the way I fucking want them. That's why. And that's what that's how our fights ended because I couldn't beat her on the logic point on this, right? She argued it too well. She understood exactly all the strengths of her arguments too well, and she understood the weakness of my argument, which was there's a certain amount of intuitive gut here, but just and there's a certain also amount of I didn't ever say these words, but she knew I had this argument, but I never would use it because I wasn't trying to win. This is what we're going to do. I was trying to win. This is what we should do. And so the point is, I could have just said, well, because it's my debate business. I want it to be like I want it to be, But that's not a
So,
good. That's not a good enough reason. I would never ever 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 make that argument. So I didn't make that argument.
going back to the point, I think, what ought in a scenario like
Thank
that,
you.
in a business scenario, in a decision-making scenario, in an I don't know, situation where you're trying to actualize something, what role should each prospective ENTP or INTP have, and why is that based on their nature?
Well, I think that the key, if you're going to have a successful ENTP INTP business relationship, the key would be to have the business be as narrow in scope as possible. So basically, if I had done what Kimball said, I would have had a successful business relationship with Kimball, and she'd still be my partner probably, and I'd be not kicking myself periodically for failing to close the deal on that one. She was a keeper for sure, and sometimes the keepers get away from you. What can I say? Anyway, the point is, I think I should have done that, and I would have successfully kept that partnership together. But instead, uh, she won. She won the argument. Like she won the behavioral argument. Like we didn't take my course of action, but she didn't convince me, and so as a consequence, there was a rift of sorts. You know.
Hmm.
But it wasn't even that caused the thing to fall apart. It's just that the process of arguing that whole thing out involves a lot of foot dragging, and other shit got put on hold. And so it's like we started because I was saying like, look, I do want to do that, but I want to do it in the proper architecture, which means we need to get this other thing rolling first. It took a long time of us not doing shit because we were arguing about stuff, and then when it finally got rolling again, um, just the momentum had been lost. And the thing is, the only way I was actually really, really going to close that deal, I was trying to get her to be like, okay, yes, Eric, I will, uh, I will start having sex with you and appoint you stepfather. Like, basically, if I could have pulled that off, it would have happened. And it's not that far fetched because it was right on the bubble there as to whether this was gonna go through or not. But then ultimately, she's just like, Eric, this is crazy. But we were both caught up in the crazy. I don't know what to say about it. And then
I
we both got a little uncaught up in the crazy.
I sense we're diverging slightly away from the topic, which I think was the
Thank you,
INDP's propensity
thank you for
to.
thank you for bringing me back to topic. I appreciate that. It's a good thing to do. So INTP decision making and taking action processes. Campbell was supposed to be provided as an example of how she was ready to take some action, but she needed it to conform with what was the winning argument, right? So,
Mhm.
and nobody can blame an INTP for that. I would never dream of blaming an INTP for that. However,
I think it's it's because you want to know. you want to know it's going to work, right? But at the same time, from your perspective, it might be, well, you're losing the opportunity to do all these things in real time. So it's like, how do you, which one do you choose? Well, the INTP is probably going to go with the first
Yeah, I
one,
mean,
but then again, they're not very opportunistic then in that scenario.
no, INTPs are not very opportunistic. I think they're the type that is most likely to be accused of underachieving.
Yeah.
And I, I will say that additionally, I think the argument point that I should have hammered more back then, and I think that kind of is the stronger one for the ENTP, is to say you're you are putting too much faith in your ability to anticipate. And ultimately, most of the critical actions in this execution of this plan will deviate from the plan in one or more ways.
Hmm.
And thus, the best way to plan this is start doing it, which will give us information we need to refine what it is we're doing. So we have
Well,
both the
that's
abstraction of it and doing it at the same time.
but that's where I see the dynamic where the beauty of the combination comes from because the sometimes and you mentioned it before, not directly, but sometimes just going on an opportunistic, going in a opportunistic direction can lead to many more, can be much more positive in general. And I think that was when you were talking about with your debate team, and you wouldn't give them the information. They were asking you for the information, but you said no. We're just going to do it this way. Um, so bad. Oh, I've lost my train of thought. That's rubbish. I don't know.
I'll tell you this. This is why the one of the ways in which the relationship works is the TI of you going, I think you're getting off topic again, Eric, and bringing me back on topic, right? I love that.
No.
And it's a sign of how, in fact, people who say that the fourth slot function is one for which you'll accept infinite help, I see that as mostly an SI problem, right? It's NE having the reins, pushed SI down into the mud, and said, forget what this topic was about, forget what this video was supposed to be about. I'm rolling with this little story I'm telling right now. And
Well,
so
no, no,
it,
because I saw when you were doing that, you were kind of non-directly explaining why, I think, and so you kind of you didn't abstractly get to the point, so you carried on another direction. And
it,
then
it
whilst you were talking, I was actually in my head trying to clarify why that's correct. Basically, I was trying to logically. I was going to jump in and logically say, "Oh, well, you're right there because of this and that," and then we could both go, "Well, that makes sense then," you know. But
so
you went too far.
what I did was what I this is how I describe when the kids do it. I say, you dribble down the floor from one end of the floor all the way to the other, dribble through all the people, you fake the ball out, everybody's lying on the floor, you're wide open underneath the basket, and now you're just standing there with the ball in your hands. What the fuck? That's what I was doing because I forgot why I had dribbled all the way down the court.
Yeah, you've forgotten.
I
Yeah,
had
you've
forgotten why I was down
forgotten.
there. What am I doing down here with this ball? You know,
And
and you're like Eric, and the conclusion is shoot it in the hoop,
we
please.
we could go back over the video and actually see your thought process. Like, because I was like when you were doing it, I was literally in my head. I was trying to because what we were saying is why do we have these natures based on the theory that we know as MBTI and all that, and and so you were very indirectly doing that, and I in my head was trying to like, you know,
Link it back, because
yeah, I was just
look,
going to jump in, like that makes sense because you were saying this to this, and
right,
but it went too far, and we'd forgotten what
right.
the
But I think,
divergent.
and I think though that the nice thing about these kind of topics and cognitive functions in general, especially when you're talking to NTPs who both types tend to be highly meta, right? Like they want to meta up all the time.
Yeah,
It makes it so that all of these sidetracks end up being demonstrative of the thing we're actually talking about in some extent or another. So for you, when you're talking about how you were thinking while I was losing losing play, forgetting why I was walking down this path, right? Um, you're basically saying you're you're explaining that your SI in the third slot is keeping much more present for you the central point of the whole thing, and
It, yeah.
your NE can understand the joy of dancing around, but your TI notes clearly enough that if you actually want to have a more successful piece of media, Eric, leaner, cleaner, and more on topic doesn't preclude you from making your jokes and telling your stories, and it just makes things better. So, I mean, it's like, it's a very uh, outcome judgment oriented kind of TI, which is the same kind of TI I display in debate class only, pretty much. Yeah.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'll get tired, like with Kimball, and just go like, fine, fuck it, I'm tired of arguing with you. You demand too much logic from me. You demand more logic from me than I ever have to give anybody else to convince them. And so
Mhm.
I don't have the energy to generate that much logic, so you win.
Well, basically, I see it as like, so we brought up a question, right? We brought up a point of contention. Like we said, why do the NTPs, use the SE and and lack of SE? And so I think of TI as the thing that comes to a conclusion on the topic, but NE is the thing that comes up with ideas and sort of fleshes out the thing to come to a conclusion. And then I see SI as maybe something that kind of records the path of points that were made to address. So TI is used. I'm trying to use my TI to like so you've just said all your things, and then I go, well, like we can draw this conclusion from that,
Well, see,
basically.
I see it as all those things you said can join to cause you to have very effective TE when you're explaining shit. Because I see T is explaining shit as one sliver, one very distinct sliver of TE. Because TE, expert thinking, in my understanding of it anyway, is introverted thinking means what's most important is that it's logically consistent to me and that I understand why this thing works in my head. And
Yeah.
if I can't explain it to you, well, too bad for you, but it's still right because I can show you I was right if I explain it all. It's something, let's say something that I'm certain about and I have the right arguments and whatever. That's TI. But TE is, instead of saying what's important is that it's logically consistent to me, is saying it's important that others understand how this thing works, how it plays out, how it manifests outcomes in some way. So I
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
both
So the
INTP
last.
and ENTP as good at TE, the parts of TE that people don't normally think are TE, and that we don't ascribe the name TE to usually. We usually ascribe the name TI to it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay, so as we're talking about basically seventh slot SE is was the original topic in this for the INTP. I want to ask you if you experience lamentations over failure to act.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
about ululations? Do you experience ululations? What is that word? You know the word I'm talking about?
Usually.
No, it's got two U's in it. It means to make a wailing noise in mourning. It's like ululate or something like that. You, it's got two U's.
Do I still don't even know what it means in that context as well.
I think it's ululations. I gotta look it up now. Okay, we're gonna have to have a brief any sidetrack here. Sorry. Now I have to look up this word.
A break. Yes.
Yeah, if I could pause the video, I'd pause it. I don't have a pause function on this. I will say the following though. What is it? Oh, that's not the right keyword. So word with two U's that means wailing.
What's it called? Unilation. Uh,
What's a synonym for wailing?
Not undulation. I thought you meant undulation originally.
No, it's like ululation or something. Let's see.
You, you, Ululations.
Yeah, let's see.
Ululations.
Ululation, a long, wavering, high-pitched vocal sound resembling a howl with a trilling quality. It is produced by emitting a high-pitched, loud voice accompanied by a rapid back-and-forth movement of the tongue and... Oh, it's like this. It's like that. That's what it is. Oh, here. Okay, a YouTube video. Let's share this important knowledge about ululation with the Assemble Talking Famous People audience as I go screen share mode. Here we see a ululation right here. Okay, so if that doesn't explain INTP thinking, I don't know what will. I guess probably nothing ever will. So, yeah, that more kind of explains NE than TI probably. But the point is, man. So you experience, do you I remember the point. I remember it now. Do you periodically ululate about your failure to act?
Like a shriek of pain.
Well, like that sound that a lady made in that video.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah, all the time.
Good.
Um,
What kind of actions do you most regret not taking, and which kind of actions do you not really care about not taking?
as it applies to SE, probably like, let me just think about it for a little bit.
I
Like,
I will tell you this. I personally regret most of all the instances when I didn't move on a chick who was trying to tell me it's okay, you can move on me, but I was too nervous.
yeah, 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 that. I was thinking of that, but I mean, it doesn't sound like something, like it sounds too generic to me but then again, I would say that fits in with SE quite well. Um, yeah, yeah, certainly that then, like being, like, I didn't want to, portray any sort of animalistic behaviors, and I dislike people who have extrovert sensing and use it like that.
Do you call them ruffians?
Yeah, yeah, no, but yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Get what you mean.
Right. That we are, of course, according to, I guess, in Negrum, I think it's that one that does this. They say INTPs and ENTPs are the infantile romantic type, and we tend to view the dominant romantic types, which are like SEs, as barbaric. We view them as
Yeah,
barbaric.
yeah, definitely.
When I read that, I thought, oh, that's totally right on the money. And we just, it's like it says, basically we should get with a caregiver romantic type because we're infantile romantic types, and that being ESFJ or ISFJ or your good choices. And if like this is why you don't ever find really ENTPs and INTPs dating each other, and it probably wouldn't work because they're both infantiles. There's no adult in the relationship romantically. They're both probably there are a lot of other types that probably view us as more adult than other people. Ironically, you know, because we use fancier words.
Yeah, I become a a bit of a child when I'm with somebody that I like. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, even if the word's not supposed to mean literally childish, uh, yeah, but I do that. So yeah,
I,
does it literally mean that?
it means
Infant.
childlike more than childish, by which it means specifically.
Yeah,
I'd like to hand over the relationship driving thing to you, please. Like
yeah.
I don't, am I supposed to do this now or that now? You just tell me because I don't fucking know anything about this, and I'd be thrilled if you just sort of our relationship is such that when I'm feeling sad, you just kind of like act like my mom and say it's okay, honey, and pat my back and stuff like that. I that's all good for me. I'm totally down with that. And then of course when I'm not feeling bad, um, then I don't want to be caregived at that point, but I also need that person then to be like, okay, but I'm the caregiver, so if we're talking about serious shit and Eric's upset about something, then I should listen to him because he's right and I'm wrong if I disagree with him,
Mhm.
right? I want both those things, so that's why I think I'm infantile because I want my way, and I also want you to kiss my boo boos, lady, surrogate mother when I'm feeling sad. So there you go. I
Like
mean,
my F the I see it more as when I portray my FE with somebody with a partner, say. Um, I think the word they say it's infantile because it's analogous to the development of an infantile, because it comes across as a child would use that FE. You see what I mean?
well, see, I don't think INTPs come across as having bad FE at all. To my eyes. Like my vision on FE
Yes,
is
it's your mind.
not razor sharp here. It's in the third slot for me. But
Yeah.
what I do note is this. I think in general ENTPs are more likely to be viewed as having worse FE than INTPs because
Yeah,
INTPs because INTPs FE expresses as risk avoidance, and so they're likely to make few mistakes. Which most, I mean, I think serious FE people might go, well, he's making few mistakes, but he's cold or something like that. I don't understand that I don't get that. Like I don't.
I
That,
might have a thought there actually. Because it's in your third slot and you're an extrovert, you actually portray or show more of your FE than an INTP will. So you also, because it's in the third slot, it also is bad relative to an FE zone, right? So there's more opportunity for it to look bad because you portray it more, right? Whilst an INTP doesn't use their FE unless they're sure it works. But if you put them both into a situation where they have to use FE, like someone's just lost someone they love or something, then ENTP will look much better in that situation than an INTP because the INTP is forced to use their FE. I'm basically saying that if an INTP normally strategically uses their FE, but an ENTP uses it more often, therefore it comes across as worse because they're portraying it more. So there's more.
so you're also saying then that it's driven by the circumstances somewhat. That if as long as the INTP can be driving that bus, and it can and being able to use it selectively and being able to choose
Yes.
and
Yeah.
jump on when they see the window, that's the right window. Then they jump and they go, aha, that joke hit because I waited
Yeah.
4 hours before making a joke.
They can only use it. Well, I know what you're saying, but they can only use it authentically. Is what I'm saying. Like, say someone just got married, and you're in a situation where the status quo is to congratulate them. Well, I'm gonna have to do that now. I can't authentically do it. I wouldn't do it where it would sound good, and so it would come across as lackluster, and I might come across as a dick. But you, however, are more trained in its use. You've used it more. You're better at BSing with it, basically, is what I would say.
Yeah,
And so in that situation, you would definitely come off better. But in from my perspective, from an NT or maybe any of the Ts, from any T perspective, your FE use is worse than mine because you use it. You're using it basically.
right.
You're using it more.
There's also an age arc to that, I think, because if for the bottom ones, it's like I don't think age has much to do with how well somebody sort of swings the bat with their first two functions. I've seen young people who think way better than old people, no problem. I see kids of mine who could wipe the floor with most random adults that I know in the world, uh, and so they're obviously executing their TI a lot better, and their youth is not relevant. However, I think with the third and fourth functions, that's where age becomes relevant because I know in my own experience, my FE used to be a lot worse, and I used to make a lot more mistakes. I used to piss a lot more people off, and
Mm.
I still do and say a lot of the same things, but I say them a little bit differently, and it makes a big difference. You know.
That brings me to another thought though as well, is that um, I think I come across as a dick. I get in trouble a lot, but it's normally because I haven't used any FE rather than using FE badly. It's more that I didn't even consider that being a situation where FE was required to soften the situation. Whilst you seem to be suggesting that when you were younger, you were using FE, but it came across badly. Am
Well,
I
see,
right, or is that
look,
just
yeah, for sure. Because here's the thing: it's like you think of and use FE um, as mostly you think of it as like a burden. That if you want to use it well, then you should have there should be no expectations on you at all, because then you'll be free to use it as you see fit. Whereas
yeah,
for me, it is not a burden; it's aspirational. It's like I want to use FE, and at first I use it freely and happily, and I get smacked down a bunch because I'm too much. There's too many jokes. You didn't find the right balance, Eric. You had too many jokes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or alternately, you need to stay more on topic. But the thing is, when I'm young, finding that, making those sort of decisions using FE as the guiding light means it's a slow growth process for me. So I persist in poor usage of FE for my whole life, including maybe some in this video when I kind of take hold the floor too long. You know, it's a tricky one for me in this context. It's really tricky, uh, and it shows you that I'm not super fluent with FE. I gotta think hard. I gotta get TI to support FE. Otherwise, it's not reflexive. I won't remember to do those things until I drill
Hmm.
it with the thinking a lot.
Although, like, I'm not sure what you said about like you aspire to get better at it, but I wish, I guess what it is it fundamentally it gets in the way. They say that it's the opposite of TI. I don't believe that, as in it's literally the minus version of. But what it does is it prevents TI, effective TI, right? So I can see what you're saying there, but I do aspire to have better FE in situations where FE would increase the mood of the environment, would increase conversation, would things like that. But I guess I kind of know that I just can't do that authentically. I don't feel right doing it. I
Well,
don't know.
I would. Well, what do you think about this possibility that you would like to be free to do that successfully if you want to. However, you wouldn't like to be the one responsible for that ever.
Yeah, I
Because
would not want. No, I don't want.
so
No, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
see,
Not well.
I wanted always to be the one responsible for that. I wanted to be the center of attention. Right? From as long ago as I can remember. All of my internal fantasies or conversations, fantasies, whatever, just conversations were me explaining things to an audience and somebody asking me questions.
Let me tell you though, that is completely the opposite of me. Like, I've never. My fancy maybe for FE might be. I think I wrote in one of your comments, is to basically use my T analyze something that can then allow me to use FE. Like say, oh, that was really good because of this, because of that. This really worked here. That really worked because of this. And then go, that was really fantastic. Well done. Carry on. FE. But like the way you say that, I must say that is much different. I don't relate at all to that. Like wanting to be the FE person to what you basically said.
Yeah. So
That was a good point.
thank you. I appreciate it. I think a lot of people will tend to have that relationship with their third function. I think if it were correlate for you, then you would want to have your life really well put together, and to know that you're taken care of and are taking care of yourself. To feel
Yeah.
to experience the now in this hour, I'm this this nap that is properly scheduled as it ought to be has fully revived me, and now I wake up, and then you'd love for a day to go like that according to this idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be awesome. Yeah, like I even in my head, I've uh, a bit of confirmation bias here, but I've been like thinking of kind of looking into health and nutrition and things, and then like kind of because I don't really want to put too much time into it. I want to like optimize the hell out of it, so that I know like this is the best. Like I'm going to eat this diet, and I'm going to eat these foods, and I never have to think about those foods again, and I'll have this optimal diet just in place. So I know that my health's good. I'll eat at these times because these are the best times to eat at, and sort of set everything up and have like look at bedtime, right? Well, what does research say on the best amount of hours or all this, and then never look at it again. That's the rest of my life, right? Why not do that? Because that, but I know that's like a fantasy as well, you know, because
Right.
like it's probably not even applicable to
It,
being the best.
it's
You know?
probably motivated by the fact that you know there are already too many variables. And if you could
Yeah,
find an
yeah,
optimal
so,
way to lock out some of those things so that those don't move anymore, it would
yeah,
free up your attention and
yeah,
yourself in general to focus on other things where you don't have to mess with those variables anymore.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. I don't know if that is SI in any. Like, I have an understanding of SI, but I don't know if that is actually SI or not. To be honest.
I think the SI is taking pleasure, genuine pleasure in the comfortableness of familiarity and of consistency and of
Yeah,
this thing is something that's taken care of. I don't have to worry about it. That
yeah,
feeling is SI feeling. Like when I go to Denny's and I go, oh, it's good to be back at Denny's. I have my coffee. She brings me my coffee and I sip it. That's a very SI experience for me. I feel like returning to a familiar, liked thing.
Do you think it's almost? Do you think the reason SI why I might have that relation with SI and why I want to get rid of all the variables is because I see, say I wanted to pick a new gym to go and work out at. I don't do that by the way, but there's a gym I want to go and work out at. But then I say, well, this gym could be better than this one. This one could be better than this one. And really, I don't give a like, I don't really want to do this in the first place. And so I'm trying to like choose the best one and then never think about it again. And that is the one that I keep coming back to there forever because then I never, yeah, I put all this work in and now it's
Right.
done and I can just leave it.
Because
Yeah.
decision making is a metaphysical weight. It just is. If you you know
Yeah.
if it's a significant decision, it's going to have lasting. It's going to apply more than right now. Right. It's going to apply over time. I find personally when I don't like my choices, but I think I'm going to choose one of them. I believe I'm going to choose one of them. I somehow keep dragging my feet and just somehow just don't make the decision. And I go, well, I thought I made this decision yesterday in the car. Yeah, but and then eventually I realized, oh, you have to make a new option. You don't like either of these decisions. You don't like either of these choices. That's why you're dragging your feet. To me, I call that introverted intuition. But it sounds to me like foot dragging for INTPs is more of a TI criterion. It says, no, this doesn't meet enough of the established uh, go aheads that TI has set up.
Yeah. And seeing new possibilities that could be better or potential things to consider with TI. And then SI is just kind of solidifying what you do, like literally what you experience each time. So it makes the decision to, well, we've analyzed this. This is probably the best one on all the variables. Now don't have to consider that ever again because it's gone into SI.
Now, how do you link that with your sense of identity, your own self picture? Do you see SI as
Oh, like a
locking
culmination of the image of me over
like
time.
say okay, and so now I know that part of me is complete, or do you think okay, so that part of me is set up so I can do some shit right now, but I'll change that later. you know?
No, it's to get it complete. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I see what you mean. I completely understand what you're saying. You're, you're, yeah, it's to solidify. It's to never have to come back and think about again because you want to move on and think about something else.
Well, it
basically.
aspires. It aspires to me. I mean, I find it aspirational. I aspire to have a sense of self that has parts that are more that feel more solid, and this has helped me a great deal with that. Because for ENTPs, I think we don't we miss that. We don't even realize that it's possible to do that, or that we're missing that part of ourselves. And then as we get older, we realize, oh, I kind of am getting a little bit like you can know this is who I am, and you can
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it in little parts of it. You can say, okay, I've got this part finished. I'm just starting to realize that's even possible to do, and it
really.
sounds great.
But the thing is, like, I think I completely understand what you're saying, but the words you used confused it slightly. Um, you said like as a part of yourself. Do you mean as like, because what I was mentioning is examples like health, nutrition, where I go to the gym, limiting factors. But do you mean like as in like things that you do, like as in your identity over time is like I went to this gym and I go to this gym, or what
Well,
did you mean in that
I
example?
more mean my identity. Like I I understand myself as someone who will, at some point, at multiple occasions in the future, this is an SI kind of thing, right? Multiple occasions in the future, I will have the same experience. I,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
and I understand myself, that as being part of myself, meaning I understand that this repeating experience, like every time I drive into the driveway now since Lacey died, I've I've become abruptly aware of, oh, Lacey's dead. I say it like every time I drive, and I say,
Right.
Lacey's dead, and then I pass the part where she got hit by a car. I tell that to myself because I don't want to get caught unawares sometime. Forget it and think that she's alive still, and go, Lacey, come here. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
too heartbreaking. So I remind myself she's dead, she's dead, she's dead, until it becomes part of my identity. But not just the fact that she's dead isn't part of my identity, but
Oh,
understanding her as a deceased dog that comprises a significant part of my life narrative and that links in with a bunch of other shit in different ways.
yeah. Okay. I get it. Yeah. It could be abstractified slightly more, but yeah. It's like it's almost like if you have a strong SI or you accept if you're saying this is part of my life, well, you're basically saying this is the experience that I'm going to experience, and I'm not going to subject any to it. I'm not going to think of any other way of doing it. I'm not going to do it any other way. I'm going to experience it this way, and that's what I do. I know the sequence of events that are going to occur, and that this is part of me. As in, I go to this gym and I did this for 5 years, and that was part of me. Is it?
It's that for sure, but it's not just the narrative itself. It's for the reason to me it's new or unusual or something I'm wrestling with is because it's the seventh slot FI. The returning to familiarity and anticipating successfully experiencing similar reactions to it or similar emotions to it. I mean that's what it is. It's emotions comprise some sort of identity mush that fills in all the gaps between the tiles. So it's like the reason I don't think often about when when the cat brought a mouse in here and killed it. I don't think about that dead mouse. That has very little impact in my life, right? And because I don't feel anything for that mouse, I don't have feelings for it. I don't think I love that mouse. And it's not embedded in my life habits at all. And the thing is, ENTP doesn't think any of that shit matters. And it takes years before we start realizing it matters immensely. I'm just strangely blind to it in the moment. I think, oh well, whatever. That this precious thing right here that I value immensely is, I'll just whatever. I'll just sell it or get rid of it or whatever. because it doesn't matter, because I can't anticipate at all that feelings matter or that they're going to manifest again down the road or something like that. So that's the issue with the identity thing, though, is that our identity has a lot to do with our feelings. And we understand who we are because we feel something about something in consistent ways more than we understand who we are by how we think about something in consistent ways. How we think about something is what we're advocating, what we're doing. Thinking about it is the doing thing. Feeling's a being thing.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's quite thought provoking. I've got a lot of thoughts going on right now.
All right, well, why don't we end this video? Another very fun, enjoyable conversation with Barry here. I've enjoyed that a great deal. And thanks for watching. And don't forget to eat a plenty of cheese.